Am I the a-hole for promising to get revenge? A girl named Feng Qingge was poisoned by her best friend. She was completely blindsided by this, and as she was dying, she prayed to the heavens. Her prayer was answered when I got Isekai'd into her body. Now it is up to me to fulfill my promises to her, get revenge, and take care of her family. So, before I get into what's happening right now, let me give you some background. My name is Feng Jiu, and yeah, or maybe I should say I was, an assassin. Yes, you heard that right. In my past life, I was trained from a very young age to live and work as an assassin, starting pretty much as soon as I could walk. My training began long before I had any real self-awareness, and by the time I was 6, I was already better at it than most of my toddler peers who went through the same intense training. And when I say intense, I'm honestly downplaying it. Our training was borderline torturous, to the point that only the toughest kids could actually withstand it. But somehow, even as a small child, I showed a real knack for this lifestyle. I was growing and improving at a rate that most of the others around me could barely scratch the surface of. Eventually, by the time I had grown up enough, I was so strong and undefeated that the organization that took me in to train me as an assassin appointed me as their head, and I took charge of all their operation. From there, I was determined to elevate the organization to new heights, and I did. I started recruiting people from all sorts of backgrounds, with all kinds of skills, and eventually, we became one of the top secret organizations not only in my country but across the globe. We were feared, respected, and best of all, we were sought after by everyone who wanted to get something done, no matter how complicated. We did everything, from morally and ethically ambiguous tasks to straight up taking down corrupt and dishonorable people sitting on the top brass. But we prided ourselves on the fact that despite our dark past and our not so clean nature of work, we had a code. We never targeted innocent people or anyone unrelated to our line of work. I made sure of that. As the head of the organization, I enforced this rule strictly, and if anyone ever crossed that line, they faced consequences they'd never forget. That's how influential I was in my previous life. I wasn't just strong, I was relentless, crossing lines if it meant executing my plans perfectly. So, when I ended up in Feng Qingge's body and saw just how terrible her past and current situation were, I genuinely felt bad for her. But, if I'm being honest, a part of me also just wanted to dive in for the revenge. I wanted to see what would happen if I stirred things up a little. When I lost my life as the head of the secret organization, I woke up somewhere completely foreign, a place that looked like it was straight out of some historical drama. The worst part was that I woke up with a weird man beside me who was being exceptionally creepy with me. There was no way I was letting that slide, so I used every skill I had, quick reflexes, all that training, and I overpowered him quickly. But then I noticed something strange. Physically, I didn't feel like me at all. I felt like someone else, almost like I was sharing space with another person. And on top of that, I had this deep, aching pain that I recognized instantly was from being poisoned. It's the kind of thing you learn to pick up on when you've spent a lifetime as an assassin. So, after I dealt with the creepy guy, I found a mirror to get a sense of what was going on. And, to my surprise, I was in an unfamiliar body, with a face I didn't recognize and was wearing some ridiculously old-fashioned dress. Like, seriously, this was not something people wore in the modern world where I came from unless they were actors filming a historical movie. And if you added in the factor of the strange old room I was in, something straight out of a period drama, it was safe to assume that I had been transferred to a completely different time. What's worse was that my host's face was marred and scarred in the worst way possible. So, I did what I had to do. I summoned her and ordered her to tell me what was going on. That's when a beautiful, but oddly sad woman appeared from within me and introduced herself as Feng Qingge, the daughter of the noble Feng family from the Sun Glory country. She was crying like a kid, but there was a bitterness in her face that spoke volumes. It was obvious she'd been through something awful and was in more pain than she let on. Still, I wasn't prepared for how tragic her story actually was. Feng Qingge was originally a very loved and spoiled daughter of the army general of the country and the current patriarch of the Feng family. From what she told me, she was very blessed and had never had to fight for survival or be in a position where she was at a disadvantage. Despite her privileged life, Qingge grew up with a kind and gentle heart, always eager to help those in need. She told me how, when she was young, she came across this very unfortunate and malnourished girl who looked like she needed some serious help. The girl introduced herself as Su Ruoyun and told Qingge how she had been trying to survive on the dangerous street of Sun Glory country all alone, without any family, loved ones, or security. Feng Qingge explained to me how her heart didn't allow her to abandon this little girl, despite being a little girl herself, and her high moral compass forced her to take her off the streets and into her own Feng mansion. For nearly a decade, the two girls were inseparable, growing up like sisters. Initially, Su Ruoyun was taken in as a maid for the mansion, but Qingge made sure she was treated far better than her role would suggest. In fact, Ruoyun was treated almost as well as Qingge herself. That's how much Qingge wanted to make her feel safe and accepted. They shared their lives, their secrets, or at least that's what Qingge had thought, and spent countless days together, as close as any sisters could be. Qingge then reached the most mind-bending, and frankly, very unfortunate part of her history. She told me that these scars she had on her face, which now now belonged to me were given to her by the very sister figure she trusted the most. She told me how Ruoyan had attacked her out of nowhere at night a few days ago and poisoned her with some of the most deadly poisons found in the country. She also told me how before Qingge fully lost consciousness, the wicked woman slashed her face with a sharp knife and completely destroyed her face and, in turn, her identity. Ruoyan's plan, all this time, was to study Qingge and her life closely and strike when the time was right. Qingge told me that before she lost consciousness, Ruoyan told her she was going to sell her to a brothel and take over her place as the heir of the Feng clan. With Qingge now scarred, weak, and unrecognizable, Ruoyan knew that no one would believe her to be the real daughter of the prestigious Feng family. That is exactly what brought Feng Qingge, or rather, me into this situation with the strange man and the weird-looking room. Since I was now residing in Qingge's body, and her apparition was behind me, telling me the entire story, it was safe to assume that the woman had tragically lost her life and soul to the very potent poison, and I was put there in her stead. After letting me in on the entire thing, for the first time, Qingge's sorrow turned to fury, and she begged me to avenge her. I hadn't expected that shift. She'd been weeping for most of her story, but hearing her pain, her desperation, it was clear why she couldn't just let it go. After everything she'd been through, it was like this was her one final plea to set things right. She made me promise her two things. The first one is to get revenge by making Su Ruoyan suffer as she had suffered, and the second one was to free her family from Su Ruoyan's shackles and take care of them. With that, she transferred her remaining memories to me and finally disappeared. And that's how, ladies and gentlemen, we come to where I am right now, carrying both the weight of her wishes and the fragile state of her poisoned, weakened body. What I know is that my constitution is very strong. I know my own strength and resolve, and I will honor the promise I made to the one who was wronged so deeply. But a part of me keeps wondering, is this really the right thing to do? Wouldn't it be an overkill? Would I be a bad person if I went through with it? So, AITA for promising to get revenge on the woman who destroyed Feng Qingge's life, even though technically, none of this was ever mine to begin with? Update. Hey there, sorry for not keeping you updated about my process so far. So many things have happened, and I needed time to process everything first. Anyway, this is what has happened so far. Luckily, I was able to leave the brothel unnoticed by changing my clothes with the help of one of the kitchen staff employees. I gave her the dress I was wearing in return. She was really happy and said it was made from very high-quality fabrics. After escaping the brothel, so many things have happened in a span of a week, and unfortunately, I can't go into detail about every crazy thing that happened to me after leaving the city and going to the nearby forest. But let me give you a few short examples. I saved someone from drowning. Turns out someone stabbed him in the stomach. So I healed and protected him from a group of wolves as he was recovering. He is now my sworn brother. His name is Shilian Guan. I was able to gather a lot of herbs, and some of them are very rare. I would scale mountains just to get them. Anyway, at one point I even got chased by bears while picking herbs. I stumbled upon a big egg, which turned out to be a phoenix egg, and now I am its master. I met my first master, who taught me about what kind of cultivation body I have, and he opened my meridians. So now I can start to cultivate and become stronger. Anyway, people seem to constantly think I'm a guy. And so I will use this as my advantage. So, that's it for now. If more things happen, I will keep you guys updated. Edit. I've been reading your comments, and I understand that there are still a lot of questions surrounding what happened after I escaped the brothel. So, let me tell you. I was able to get myself familiar with this new world by pretending to be a beggar. This gave me some time to get myself adjusted to this world and come up with a plan. I realized that I needed to get herbs from the forest nearby to heal the poison that was still inside of me and to start treatment for the scars on my face. I wasn't going to completely get rid of them just yet. But every time I moved my face, it really hurt a lot. Anyway, I was able to leave the city because I pretended to know a kind stranger. I called after him, calling him brother-in-law, and told him that I was so glad to have finally found him. I embarrassedly clung to him. He understood that I needed his help getting out of the city. After we passed the city gate, he warned me that in the 9 volts forest there was danger lurking everywhere and that it was best not to go there. Then he left. But a little danger isn't going to keep me from gathering the herbs that I needed. I'm not afraid of anyone or anything. Edit 2. You guys wanted to also know how I figured out that the big egg was a phoenix egg. Well, let me tell you how I came into possession of the egg and what happened afterwards. As I said before, while gathering some rare herbs, I got chased by 2 bears. I ran for my life. And just as I had jumped into a tree, I looked back and I saw that the bears stopped chasing me and they were shaking with fear. Before them was this crater with an egg at the bottom. They ran off, and I decided to pick it up, to eat it. Just kidding. On my way back to where Shilian was, I fell into this underground cave, where I had to fight off dozens of rats, and I also found a lake there that had a door at the bottom. Of course, curiosity got the better of me, and so I swam towards it. As I approached this door, it suddenly opened and I got pulled in. This made me cough up some blood, which got on the egg. Before I could process what was happening, the egg hatched and a cute giant talking baby was before me. He told me he was the great primordial ancient phoenix. He's just so cute. I can't stop pinching his cheeks. Edit 3. Okay, this is the last edit for this update. I saw some people asking about my master and my cultivation. So, let me explain. The first night in the forest, after healing my body from the poison that was still inside of me, I tried to start cultivating. But I realized that something was preventing me from absorbing spiritual energy. Turns out, I have a heavenly spirit body. I'm actually able to cultivate not only spiritual energy, but also heavenly energy. This makes my cultivation speed 10 times faster than the average person. This is what my new master, Chubadian, explained to me. He was a ghost stuck in the underground cave I fell into. In exchange for making him my master, he used up his last energy to open up my heavenly spiritual meridians. I also received a very mysterious ring. It's a spatial ring with a whole other world inside there. In return, I, as his disciple, will work on accomplishing the 3 tasks he has given me. The first task he gave me was to go and reorganize the heavenly palace. The second task was to enter the 10,000 swords grave and retrieve the azure wind blade. The third task is to look for any of his remaining family members and see if they are doing well. After he opened my heavenly spiritual meridians, I immediately went to retrieve the azure wind blade. So I can check that one off. As for the other 2 tasks, he never gave me a time frame for when I have to accomplish them. So for now, I will keep focusing my attention on fulfilling my promises to Feng Qingge. Maybe in a couple of years, I will update you guys about the progress of accomplishing these tasks. Second and final update, so, it finally happened. I fulfilled my promise of getting revenge on Su Ruoyan. Let me tell you, revenge is a dish best served cold. I took my time, and as I watched her from afar, I planned her downfall. By the time I was done with her, she was on her knees, completely humiliated in front of everyone. But first I needed money. I couldn't be a beggar when confronting Su Ruoyan. So I disguised myself with a mask to hide my scars and in male clothes. I started selling my medicine in auctions at the black market. When the organizers from the black market saw how awesome my pills and potions were, I became famous overnight. They started calling me the ghostly doctor, a mysterious figure in red who could create any potion and cure any ailment. My second phase of my plan was drawing the attention of Murong Yishuan. Without really revealing myself to him, I wanted him to start doubting the fake Feng Qingge and see her true character. It wasn't that hard to get his attention. He was immediately intrigued by me. I had fun messing with Su Ruoyan while they were on their dates. Like that one time, I covered her in a scent that attracted the swarm of bees towards her. You should have seen her screaming as she was trying to run away, and let's just say she got stunned more than a few times. Then there was the time I slapped her hard in the face, in public, after she was downright rude towards Shilian Guan. You see, we were driving through town when I had a craving for some soup. So Shilian stopped the carriage and went to a food cart nearby to get some. After some time he came back with the soup and told me he met with Murong Yishuan again. Before I could enjoy my food, Murong Yishuan called out to me from outside of the carriage. I didn't really want to be bothered now, as I was enjoying my soup. Luckily, Shilian told him, with a very firm voice, that there was no need to apologize to me again. I thought that was that. But then I heard Su Ruoyan demanding that I should come out of my carriage and greet them. I took this opportunity to edge her on. So I told her I didn't see any reason to come out of my carriage, as I didn't know them at all. When she heard my voice, she literally tried to climb into my carriage. Shilian stopped her, and that's when she slapped him. Well, I wasn't going to stand for this rude behavior, so I came out of the carriage and slapped her back hard in her face. Then I guided Shilian away, telling him not to bother with people that have no significance to us. Anyway, I knew that by revealing myself, she became very suspicious of me. So it was only a matter of time before she would send people from the Poison Clan after me. This gave us the chance to start the third phase of my plan: annihilate anyone associated with her. So when they attacked us, we went after the Poison Clan and destroyed their home base in one night. In the meantime, I also had an emotional reunion with Feng Qingge, or should I say, my grandfather. The man might be suffering from short-term memory loss, but he immediately recognized me. when I told him what had happened. He rushed home angrily to confront Su Ruoyan. But she was able to make him seem insane by poisoning him. After not hearing from him for 3 days, I went and snuck into the Feng clan mansion. I found him chained to his bed. When I checked his health, that horrible woman had been poisoning him. If I had waited a day, he wouldn't have been alive anymore. So I took him with me as I escaped. This definitely pushed some of her buttons. She started using her influence to force her father, or rather, my father, into giving her complete control of the Feng guards, including all of its manpower and security. But before she could fully execute her plan, my grandfather and I arrived at the mansion together, and I exposed her in front of everyone, including the emperor. And I didn't stop there, I humiliated her. When she began ranting about how much she despised me and hated pretending to be me, I slashed her face. I wanted to go further with her punishment, but Morong Ishuan stepped in and used his cultivation powers to end her life. I think he let her off too easily, honestly. Fortunately, after everything, things are finally calming down, and my father and grandfather are back to being the most affectionate and lovely people to me. My father is absolutely humiliated and livid at himself for believing Ruoyan's lies, but I'm slowly convincing him to forgive himself. I have also taken control of the Feng guards and am now working towards making everyone stronger. This also includes my father and grandfather. I will fulfill my second promise to Feng Qingge by making sure that they will live to their fullest potential, helping them along the way with my vast knowledge in medicine and cultivation. So guys, here it is. The conclusion you've all been waiting for. The revenge is done, and I'm very sure Feng Qingge is looking down at me and smiling. Do I regret it? Not one bit, though I do wish Su Ruoyan had suffered more before her life was ended. Edit. Okay, I see I still need to clarify a couple of things concerning Morong Ishuan. You keep asking why he needed to apologize to me. And he really didn't have to. I met him for the first time in the inn me and Shilian were staying at. It seems that I reminded him of the Feng Qingge he knew. So he approached me, and after some small talk, I wanted to walk away and he tried to stop me. Shilian interfered, and that was that. He apologized, and I told him no hard feelings. So personally, I think it was just an excuse to approach me again. As for the second question, will I be resuming my engagement with him? Sorry to disappoint anyone that was hoping for this. But no, I will not. Although I recognize that the former Feng Qingge cared for him deeply, I myself do not hold these feelings for him. I was relieved when I overheard him ending the engagement with my father. He just simply isn't my type, and I want to have the freedom to explore this new world. Plus, who does he think he is, interrupting me when I was punishing Su Ruoyan? I never asked him to do that. My guess is that he became uncomfortable with the cruel side I was showing, and so he intervened. He still sees me as the Feng Qingge he once knew. A girl he has to protect, but that girl is gone, and in her place is me. I don't need his protection. If there are problems, I will take care of them myself. I one day hope to find a man that loves me for me and who will support me in my ambitions. But for now, I'm content with being single and forging my own path in the new world. Hello, it's Anima Wisdoms here. If you're curious, you can check out the videos from the other characters in this playlist here. It tells you everything from their point of view.